What happens when America's favorite country star walks straight into the lion's den of daytime TV and refuses to back down? What you're about to see isn't just an interview. It's a clash so explosive it left producers scrambling, the audience stunned, and millions of viewers questioning everything they thought they knew about live television. The studio lights blazed as Blake Shelton took his seat on The View. Boots crossed, microphone clipped, his trademark grin in place. The audience buzzed with excitement, expecting the usual easy banter about music, tours, and small-town charm. But across the table sat Joy Behar, notes spread out, that unmistakable glint in her eye. "So, Blake," she began, her smile tight, "your new album leans heavily on small-town values and traditional America. Critics say that's just coded language for exclusion and intolerance. What do you say to that?" The air shifted. The other hosts Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah N., Sunny Hostin, and Alyssa Farah Griffin exchanged wary glances. Blake's smile flickered. His Oklahoma drawl deepened. "Joy, that's a pretty unfair read. When I sing about small towns, I'm talking about neighbors helping neighbors. Folks working hard, families sticking together. That's not exclusion, that's community." Joy didn't flinch. She leaned closer, papers in hand. "But when you sing about keeping things the way they've always been," she pressed, "you're romanticizing a past that wasn't exactly welcoming to everyone. Isn't that really a message that change and some people aren't welcome?" The tension was electric now. Camera operators adjusted, sensing this wasn't going to be fluff TV. Blake uncrossed his legs, leaned in. His voice steady, but sharper. "You're reading something into my songs that isn't there. I've never said people aren't welcome. What I'm singing about are values that stand the test of time. Hard work, honesty, family. Those aren't politics, they're human." Joy cut in, her voice rising. "Oh, come on. You wave flags. You sing about the good old days, and your audience knows exactly what that means. You're dog whistling to people who want to turn back the clock on progress." Whoopi tried to intervene. "Maybe we should." "No, Whoopi," Joy snapped. "Let him answer." Blake's jaw tightened, his eyes stormy. "Joy, I've spent my whole career bringing people together through music. On stage, I see every color, every age, every walk of life singing the same lyrics. That's America to me." Joy leaned back, but pushed harder. "Let's be real. Your fan base is mostly white, mostly rural, and mostly conservative. When you sing about traditional values, they hear traditional hierarchies. When you sing about the way things used to be, they're thinking about when women and minorities knew their place." The room froze. Even the crew stopped moving. Blake's face hardened. "That is completely out of line. You're putting words in my mouth and in my fans' heads. You don't know me, and you sure don't know them." Joy's stare didn't break. "I know what I see. You're profiting off nostalgia for an America that was less equal, less fair, less free for millions of people." Blake shot to his feet, mic screeching with feedback. The audience gasped. Producers waved frantically off camera. "You know what, Joy? I came here to talk music, not to be ambushed and lectured by someone who's never set foot in the places I sing about. I won't sit here and be accused of pushing hate when everything I do is about bringing people together." Joy fired back from her chair, her voice just as sharp. "Oh, so I'm the problem now. I ask tough questions, and suddenly, I'm ambushing you. This is exactly what I mean when challenged. You get defensive and angry." "I'm angry," Blake snapped, hands cutting the air. "Because you're twisting my words and insulting millions of good people. You sit here, in your New York bubble, and judge communities you've never lived in, people you've never met." The host scrambled to cool things down. Whoopi's voice cut through. Okay, we need to take it down a notch." But Joy wasn't done. "My prejudices. Blake, I'm calling out an industry that's excluded and marginalized people for decades. And the fact that you're this upset proves my point." "What it proves," Blake shot back, his voice cutting through the noise, "is that you're wrong. And you're so wrapped up in your own righteousness, you can't even hear me. That's the real problem here." The audience murmured, some standing for a better view. The clash had gone from heated interview to a loud showdown in live television had never felt more raw. Security had quietly moved closer to the stage, standing just outside of camera view. They weren't sure if this was still an interview or a confrontation about to get physical. Joy rose to her feet, matching Blake's intensity, her voice slicing through the thick air. "You want to talk about bubbles, Blake? Let's talk about yours, where you get to sing about the good old days without ever acknowledging that those days weren't good for everyone. You profit off nostalgia without taking responsibility for what that nostalgia really means." Blake's face was flushed now, his easygoing charm gone. "Unbelievable. Joy, you're so determined to make this about race, politics, or whatever fits your agenda. But it's not about that, it's about music. It's about the people and places that raised me, and you refuse to see it." Joy shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping. My agenda is equality, Blake. My agenda is making sure when we celebrate America, we're celebrating all of American, just the parts that make people like you feel comfortable. Sunny Hostin finally cut in, her voice steady but tense. I think what Joy is saying, Blake, is that music carries power. And with power comes responsibility to consider how your message might be interpreted. Blake swung toward her, frustration flashing. Sunny, with all due respect, I don't need anyone telling me what my songs mean. I wrote them, I lived them, and I'm not going to apologize for celebrating my community just because it makes some people uncomfortable. Joy stepped closer, lowering her voice but sharpening it like a blade. Nobody's asking you to apologize for your community. Blake, what we're asking is that you acknowledge your platform goes beyond it. When you romanticize a certain version of America, you're sending a message to people who might not have been welcome in that America. Blake crossed his arms tightly. And what message is that? Joy. That hard work matters. That family matters. That neighbors matter, because those are the messages in my songs. If that threatens you, maybe the problem isn't with my music. Alyssa Farrah Griffin tried to ease the fire, her tone careful. Blake, I don't think anyone's threatened by those values. The concern is context, making sure that when we celebrate tradition, we're not excluding people who also share those values but don't fit the traditional image. Blake turned to her, his expression softening slightly at her measured tone. Alyssa, I respect that. But I shouldn't have to slap a political disclaimer on every lyric I write. When I sing about my hometown, when I sing about the people who raised me, I'm not saying who belongs and who doesn't. I'm telling my story. Joy pounced on the pause. But your story doesn't exist in a vacuum. Blake, you're on national TV, you're selling millions of records, you're shaping how people see America. That comes with responsibility for the impact. The impact, Blake's voice shot upward, his composure cracking. The impact is that people feel less alone. That a father working 2 jobs hears a song and knows his life has meaning. That communities looked down on by people like you feel seen. Joy's eyebrows shot up, her voice was ice. People like me. What exactly do you mean by that? Blake, the words hung heavy in the air. Everyone in the studio knew he had reached a point of no return. Blake hesitated, but his anger broke through his restraint. I mean people who think they're better than everyone else. People who sit in judgment of entire communities without ever trying to understand them. People who believe a degree on the wall in a Manhattan zip code makes them morally superior to the rest of us. Joy's laugh was sharp, humorless. There it is. The real Blake Shelton, not the aw shucks country boy, but the resentful populist who thinks education and urban living are flaws. Thank you for finally being honest. Honest. Blake's voice boomed so loud the microphones began to distort. You want honesty? Fine. Here it is. The clash had tipped from heated debate into something raw, dangerous, and unforgettable. The cameras never cut away. You want honesty, Joy? Fine. Here's some honesty for you, Blake snapped, his voice shaking with fury. For the past 15 minutes, you've twisted every word out of my mouth into something ugly. You've tried to paint me as some kind of villain just because I won't trash the people and places that shaped me. That's not journalism. That's character assassination. Whoopi rose to her feet, her tone firm and commanding. All right, everybody needs to cool it. We're on live television, and this has gone way past what anyone signed up for. But Joy wasn't backing down. No, Whoopi, this is exactly what we signed up for. This is what happens when we actually ask the hard questions instead of tossing softballs at celebrities. Blake can't handle being challenged, and his reaction says it all. Blake's hand shot out, finger pointed directly at Joy, trembling with anger. You didn't challenge me, Joy, you ambushed me. You walked in here with your mind already made up, with your little script about what I supposedly represent and what my fans supposedly think. And when I tried to give you real answers, you ignored them and kept pushing your agenda. My agenda, Joy fired back, is holding public figures accountable for the messages they put out. Your agenda is wanting to say whatever you want without consequences or criticism. Well, welcome to the real world, Blake. Sarah H. finally tried to intervene, her voice cautious and pleading. Maybe we could shift the focus back to the music itself, the songwriting process, the inspiration, but Blake cut her off, his eyes still locked on Joy. No, Sarah, we're way past music. Joy's made it crystal clear she doesn't care about my songs. She cares about making a political point. She cares about scoring with her audience by tearing me down. Joy leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a low, cutting whisper that carried more menace than shouting ever could. I care about the truth, Blake. I care about calling out coded language and dog whistles when I hear them. And if that makes you uncomfortable, if that makes you angry, maybe you should be asking yourself why. Blake's fists clenched tight at his sides, his whole frame rigid with tension. The only thing that makes me uncomfortable, Joy, is sitting here while you lecture me about my own life, my own music, my own heart. You don't know me. You don't know what I stand for. And clearly you don't want to know. Joy's reply was ice cold. I know exactly what you just showed me. The moment I asked you to think beyond your own experience, you got defensive and angry. The moment I asked you to consider other perspectives, you collapsed into victimhood and resentment. Blake's face went pale, then flushed red, his jaw tightening as he absorbed her words. The silence that followed stretched on like a held breath before he finally spoke, his voice low and dangerous. Victimhood, resentment. You've spent the last 20 minutes attacking everything I believe in, everything and everyone I care about, and the moment I defend myself, you dismiss it as me playing the victim. The moment I refuse to let you smear good people, you call it resentment. Joy folded her arms across her chest, unflinching. I call it what it is. Blake, you came here expecting us to nod along while you promoted your album. But the moment we asked real questions about your message, you unraveled. That's not confidence in your convictions, that's weakness. The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances with the production team, silently begging for intervention. The studio audience sat in frozen silence, watching the confrontation with horrified fascination, aware they were witnessing a moment destined to be replayed and dissected for years. Blake stepped toward Joy, the movement sharp enough to make nearby security guards tense. Ready, his voice thundered, shaking with rage. You want to know what I am confident about? Joy, I'm confident that you are everything wrong with the media today. You don't ask questions to understand. You ask questions to trap people. You don't want dialogue, you want gotcha moments. And you, Joy shot back instantly, are everything wrong with celebrity culture. You think fame gives you a free pass to say whatever you want without scrutiny. You think success means you're above criticism. Blake laughed bitterly, shaking his head. Above criticism. Joy, I've been in this business 20 years. I've been criticized by people far tougher than you on my worst day. But what you're doing isn't criticism, it's a smear job. And the fact you can't tell the difference is exactly why nobody trusts the media anymore. Joy's eyes blazed, her words slicing the air. Nobody trusts the media because people like you spend years undermining it whenever it dares to ask inconvenient questions. You'd rather hide behind a polished image than face real scrutiny. Real scrutiny. Blake barked, incredulous. You came at me with a predetermined conclusion. Joy, you twisted everything I said to fit your narrative. That's not scrutiny, that's propaganda. Whoopi's voice finally cut through the chaos, deep and commanding, making one last attempt to rein in the wildfire consuming the set. Both of you need to step back right now. One of the producers pleaded. This has gone way too far, but Joy was past the point of stopping. Her professional mask was gone, her voice sharp and unyielding. The only thing that's gone too far, she snapped, is Blake's reaction to legitimate questions about his public messaging. His meltdown here today proves exactly what I've been saying. Defensiveness, anger, and an image built on charm that can't survive real scrutiny. Blake's composure finally cracked. His voice thundered across the set. Meltdown. Meltdown. Joy, you've been coming at me personally for the better part of half an hour, questioning my character, my integrity, everything I stand for. And now you call this a meltdown. What did you expect me to do, sit here and smile while you try to tear me apart? I expected you to have an adult conversation about the responsibility that comes with your platform. Joy shot back, her voice rising to match his. Instead, you've shown everyone that beneath the good all-country boy charm is a man who can't handle being challenged by a woman who refuses to back down. That last line was the breaking point. Blake's face flushed red. He ripped off his microphone, slamming it onto the table so hard it bounced and clattered to the floor. That's it, I'm done. His voice carried across the stunned studio, even without amplification. Joy, you're a bitter, miserable person who gets her kicks tearing other people down. I won't be part of your circus anymore. Joy stayed seated, eyes locked on him, her retort quick and cutting. And you're a privileged celebrity who can't handle the truth about his own message. Walking away when the conversation gets tough, that's very telling. Blake stopped in his tracks, spun back around, and jabbed a finger at her. The only thing that's telling, Joy, is that you call this a conversation. This wasn't a conversation, it was an ambush, and everyone watching knows it. Producers swarmed the set, trying desperately to contain the chaos. One of them approached Blake, hands raised. Blake, please take a breath. Maybe we can work this out. But Blake shook his head firmly. No, we can't work this out. I came here, in good faith, and I got attacked. There's nothing left to fix. Joy, unable to resist, twisted the knife one more time. Good faith would have been acknowledging that your music might send mixed messages. Good faith would have been engaging with criticism instead of running from it. Blake turned back, his voice now low and deadly calm. No, Joy, good faith would have been asking real questions instead of setting traps. Good faith would have been listening to my answers instead of just waiting to pounce. But you don't know the first thing about good faith, do you? The silence that followed was suffocating. Even Joy faltered, her confidence flickering as she realized this had gone far beyond a normal interview. Whoopi tried to save the wreckage. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more of The View. But Blake wasn't waiting for breaks. He was already storming off the set, his security flanking him as producers scrambled. At the edge of the stage, he turned one final time, his words slicing through the tension. To anyone watching who thinks Joy just spoke for you, you might want to ask yourself if this is really the kind of person you want representing your views, because what I just experienced wasn't journalism. It wasn't even debate. It was cruelty, dressed up as righteousness. And with that, Blake Shelton walked off the View, leaving behind a studio of stunned faces, rolling cameras, and a viral moment destined to be replayed for months. Joy sat frozen in her chair, her face caught between defiance and the first signs of regret as the reality of what had just unfolded began to sink in. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of the aftermath of one of the most explosive celebrity interviews in daytime television history. What do you think? Did Joy press Blake too far, or was he running from accountability? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more unforgettable moments where celebrities and controversy collide.